Hey guys, you're watching In the Boat with Ben TV. My name is Ben.
And I'm Rachel.
Today we're talking about helping your child work through a meltdown. And the process that we're going to describe is actually helpful for working through a number of negative emotions and can even be a helpful guideline for the way that we as adults process our emotions. Before we dive into this, I did want to say something about correction because often the context in which a meltdown happens is when a child has made a mistake or has done something wrong or is being corrected or told they can't do something. And the best thing for us to do is recognize that in that moment, they've already made the decision, they've already gone over the edge. And so we can't really meet them with logic and try to correct the situation right then and there. The motivations that lead them to the choices they make have their deepest roots in the connection that they feel with us, even stronger than the consequences they might experience or how much they think they want that thing. And so it's really important for us to focus, to shift our mindset to the connection that we have with them. And while it is good to use consequences as a way of teaching and helping them once they've gotten through their emotions, the connection is really the strongest piece.
One of the most effective things we can do in the middle of one of our child's meltdowns to reestablish our connection is to practice empathy. And it feels really hard to do this when your kid is losing his mind. But if we think about the way that we feel when we're emotionally flooded, we just want to be understood. And so, as parents, if we are choosing to actively understand our child and what they're going through, and to just practice empathy with them, saying something like, I understand that you really want to do this, and just being with them in that empathy. That's one of the best ways that we can reestablish connection. And then from there, we can use other techniques to move them away from that meltdown. But one of the first things that we have to do is to help our children feel understood.
There's this picture that I get in my mind of our child being on a lifeboat or something in the middle of a raging sea, and we as the parents, we're the firm, either the big boat that's come to save them, or maybe the helicopter that's swooping in. I mean, choose your favorite metaphor there, but the connection that we establish is really the tether that keeps them secure while the sea is raging, while everything else seems out of control. We've got this connection and we can ride out the storm. We may not be able to stop the storm. We may not be able to, suddenly make everything calm, but we can keep that connection, and that's going to help them feel more secure while they're going through the process of working through their emotions and going through their meltdown.
And I have to say something right here, and it's a little bit off topic, but I just want to say that it is completely normal for kids to have meltdowns. Sometimes when it happens in public, we can feel like, oh my gosh, we're such bad parents because our kid is melting down and he's screaming on the floor. But the reality is, kids have meltdowns. The reality is, we have meltdowns. We just know how to handle them better. And if we are denying our children the opportunity to have meltdowns, I know that sounds really crazy, but they never learn how to deal with their feelings.
Well, so I mean, in that sense, meltdowns are actually a good thing. It's like, oh yeah, they're having a meltdown. Great, we get to. It's a learning opportunity. I know that sounds crazy, and you definitely don't feel like that in the middle of
No.
it. But maybe thinking about it that way helps. In Parenting Without Power Struggles, a book that Rachel and I have both read, Rachel's read more of it than I have, admittedly. But Susan Stiffelman, the author, uses the 5 stages of grief to talk about the way kids process through their strong emotions when they're emotionally flooded. And really, this is kind of the way that we all process our emotions. We may just not be aware of it. The 5 stages of grief are denial. So this is really common when you hear a kid saying no, or just throwing a fit, trying to fight against it. There's that fight. And usually kind of combined with that is anger. And that's another part of it, very easy to recognize. The next part is bargaining. Now, we're all familiar with this one.
I do it.
We've we've got one of the biggest bargainers in. No, I'm just kidding. I was actually it's our oldest son. We think he might grow up to be a lawyer.
I don't know where he got it from, though.
Bargaining basically looks like they're trying to figure out a way that they can get what they want. And then once bargaining doesn't work out, once they realize that they're not going to get their way, depression is the next phase. And depression can look like sadness, it can look like defeat, it can also kind of look like anger. And after depression is finally acceptance. Now, acceptance doesn't look like, okay, everything's right with the world again. There may still be some of those shades of depression, but there's a moving on that happens. And you'll almost always be able to recognize this turning point because though their emotional state may not change, you'll see the wheels in their head start to turn again, like the logical part of their brain is starting to take back over the process.
The depression that we're talking about is a small scale. It mainly means sadness or anger again. It's not like a clinical depression.
Right.
And what we can do to help our kids through these stages of grief is to just give them the language to talk about how they're feeling. Kids don't come with that language already. Most of them don't even know what some of those emotions are that they're feeling. And so helping them talk through that and being able to name those emotions is really helpful for them. And one of the things that we did whenever our kids were really young is we used weather as emotions. So our oldest boy, I think when he was 6, would talk about feeling like a volcano. And we knew that was anger. He said he was feeling red. He was volcanic. He was about to erupt. And so some of those things can make emotions more understandable to younger kids. Something else we can do is help our kids have the language to tell a story about what has happened. Sometimes our kids have meltdowns because something happened that just didn't go according to their plan. And they don't always have the language to tell the story about that. And so, in order to help them process through that disappointment or the anger or the frustration, we can help them tell a story about it.
Stories are really powerful. Just using words in general. One of the big pieces of advice out there for children who go through scary or difficult situations is to help them tell the story of what happened, to talk about the details. In wielding the words and being able to describe it, there's kind of a taking back over of control that happens. The child feels a little bit more in control, a little bit more secure. And if you think about the meltdown, like we described earlier with the raging sea, they they may be it may seem like they're driving that, but really it's kind of got control of them, and it can be really scary, especially when they don't understand it. So giving them the words to describe it and the ability to tell the story of what's going on gives them a sense of control and a sense of security, and ultimately helps them feel like in the future, if they experience this again, they know what they can do. Understanding the stages of grief is not about trying to push our child through the process. It's not about, okay, how quickly can we work through these stages so that we can get you feeling good again. It's really just about being able to recognize where your child is so you can anticipate what's coming up next, and understanding what they're going through so that you can help them with some of that language. Most of all, understanding what they're going through allows us to have a connection with them. It allows us to be there for them. And really, that's the most powerful thing. It's not us trying to coach them through and get them to the next stage and get them through it, but it's really us just being present and connected that's going to, and helping them have some of the language and the words and the ability to describe what's going on. But that connection is what's going to help them work through this and learn and be able to work through it more efficiently next time.
And this is not the easy way. The easy way is to say, you know what, this is unacceptable behavior. and that's that. But this way helps our kids learn how to work through those emotions. And I think we probably all know people who have never learned how to do that and seen adults who have adult sized meltdowns. And what we want for our children is to learn how to deal with those emotions and learn how to deal with things like disappointment and frustration and sadness.
It's difficult in the moment. And I just got to say that again. It's really difficult in the moment. But when our child is melting down, the logical part of their brain can't receive your message of this is not the appropriate time or place to do this.
And we can think about this in our own lives. I mean, when we're emotionally flooded, the last thing we want to hear from somebody is, you shouldn't feel that way, or you shouldn't be acting this way.
Yeah, so while it is good to go back, if they are behaving inappropriately, if they're melting down and expressing themselves in a way that is harmful to them and even distracting or disturbing to other people, it's okay to go back after the fact, once the logical part of their brain has taken over, and teach them, talk them through the process, and let them know, okay, when we're in this kind of place, instead of expressing yourself this way, maybe you can do this instead. Instead of shouting and screaming, maybe we can find a pillow, or you can scream into my purse. That would be weird.
Yeah.
That would be weird, but it would be better than...
Because kids have snot.
Yeah, that's gross. Okay, forget that example. But, fill in your own example of what might look better.
Be creative.
The point is that the teaching moment has to come after the flood is done. Mm-hmm. I hope this episode has given you some good ideas about what you can do next time your child is experiencing a meltdown and the role that you play in that. And also lets you off the hook a little bit for the times when you feel embarrassed or worried about the way your child is melting down. Like Rachel said, it's completely normal. If you want more content like this, go to intheboatwithben.com, where we host a weekly podcast that goes a little bit deeper into these topics. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter, and we will send you the 5-step checklist to add a weekly guilt-free work block as soon as it's available. For more videos like this, subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching. Are they playing with some toys? Are they distracted by something? Are they listening to something else? Or are they watching television? Are they playing with their siblings? Look at the situation and then adjust your method for how you're going to communicate based on what's going on.